Tribe 9 just announced end of service for November of this year, making the runtime duration between its launch and termination announcement 3 months. Yikes. I wanted to make this video because I'm actually quite upset over this piece of news. Tribe 9 is a very high-budget game, with custom 3D animations and cutscenes, a fully voice-acted story, and one of the most unique presentations I've seen in a gacha game. How can something like this possibly flop? I had a lot of people reach out wanting me to give Tribe 9 a second chance, praising its world-building and gameplay elements. I never really got around to doing that, but given the unfortunate recent announcements, I went back and finished the entire story so far, and after finishing Chapter 3 myself, wow. This game really is something else that did not deserve this fate. Today, I'm going to analyze the reasons why I did not give Tribe 9 the recognition it deserved in my first impressions review, and why it's shutting down for reasons that sound impossible to believe. My name is Psyche, and let's revisit Neo Tokyo one last time. First off, I would like to correct some mistakes I made in the first impressions video. Tribe 9 is co-developed by Tokyo and Akatsuki Games. While their relationship isn't exactly certain, according to this post by Kodaka himself, he supposedly worked on the world-building aspect and did not work on the scenario. So I'm going to assume that Akatsuki Games was the one that wrote the story and designed the majority of the game and its mechanics. Tokyo is doing pretty decently with their new single-player game, 100 Line Last Defense Academy. So here's hoping these creative minds aren't out of the gaming industry yet. At the same time, I guess we can pin all the blame on the game's failure on Akatsuki here. In the original review, I complained about the movement not feeling responsive and certain quality of life features missing that are present in most gacha games. There is now a toggleable option to adjust the hit-stop intensity, meaning you're able to interrupt certain attack animations to dodge or counter. And I found playing with this change much smoother than before. Once you level up enough, there is an insta-kill feature to skip lower-level enemies, and Rifts can now take triple the amount of stamina to get more rewards. So now, after having finished all 3 chapters, and presumably all the story content that there ever will be, I'll be going over my thoughts on the whole experience, then transition to where I think everything went wrong. First off, presentation. This game is jaw-droppingly gorgeous. After visiting Minato and Chiyoda City, you can tell that a lot of these locales were handcrafted to be distinct to explore. Pixel art has always been a little hit or miss for me, but Tribe 9 has shown me that sometimes you just need the correct art direction. I really like the characterization for the game. It feels like everyone in the cast has some kind of flaw or nuance to them that makes them intriguing. The protagonist, Yo, actually feels multifaceted with traits that puts his morals into question, and I absolutely love this change of pace in writing. Gameplay is also something I want to comment on. After getting rid of that horrible hit-stop mechanic, I had a lot of fun with the battles. The tension card system is honestly one of the most interesting aspects, and I can see a lot of potential with it. It's almost like you can tailor it to the way you play, instead of feeling restricted to play a certain way with the resources you're given. It's still not going to be everyone's favorite combat system, but I overall had a lot of fun with it. It's not every day that you're forced to learn enemy movesets and need to fail a couple times to get the hang of a boss fight, especially in a gacha game. I also found myself not needing to grind for a lot of materials to level up my characters. You can actually just defeat some tough bosses without needing to come back daily for more stamina. Granted, there are gachas out there that let you do this, but this was something I appreciated. You're also not soft-gated by progression. There's that whole sticker thing that you have to unlock level caps and certain areas of the map. Except I found that as I entered Chiyoda City with a level 30 party, the game actually let me roam around anyways. It's kinda like they're saying, hey look, I can see you're out of level, but if you want to give this new area a shot, go for it. So I did. Even with a level 30 team, I still managed to clear a lot of the map, and it actually felt rewarding as I received more XP from winning such fights. This is just not something most gacha games do. A lot of them have artificial level requirements or secretly adjust your power level to make sure you don't progress too fast. Yet here we are where you're actually rewarded for playing well. You can also clear the story and most challenged content with just the characters and tension cards given to you. The stamina system is also extremely lenient, allowing you to store 20 units of it at a time, with ways to even get more of it just by grinding enemies in the overworld. That's just unreal. I also found the Patimon system to be more lax and easy to farm relative to a lot of other gachas out there. For one, you can just straight up find them in the overworld. You don't have to upgrade it, so the version when you obtain it already has the stats maxed out. You also get these tokens called PARs that lets you migrate desirable substats to a higher tier of Patimons, so you're very likely to get the build you want in no time. This level of freedom for an RNG relic system is almost unheard of. The only way you can top this is if you didn't have them at all. With all these mechanics, I never felt like I had to grind or do daily tasks to get to where I wanted to be. It was only after realizing that I've gotten most of what I wanted in the game that it finally hit me. Tribe 9 feels good to play because it's just not a gacha game. And that's exactly the problem. After I finished Chapter 3, I sat back while looking at my characters standing in the middle of Chiyoda City's streets, and I thought to myself, damn, that was a pretty good game. So, what now? Tribe 9 is a bit of a hot topic right now given its sudden EOS announcement. There's a lot of people theorizing on why the game ended the way it did, but first let me just ask a question. Did you actually play the game? Let me just say this from someone that has actually fully completed the game that, in my opinion, most of these points being made by creators and posts online are slightly mischaracterizing the game for what it truly is. You cannot tell me that this highly stylized pixel art style didn't stand out among gacha games. You can't tell me that the overwhelming amount of generosity, the easy-to-farm materials and relics are commonplace in the gacha market, without the combat system with attention cards didn't have a lot of potential. I think Tribe 9 absolutely stood a chance at stabilizing if it played its cards right. Of course, it's not that I fully disagree with many of said theories, and I'm not going to defend Akatsuki Games here. The development team has clearly done something wrong to warrant being in a position like this. I think there's a multitude of reasons why Tribe 9 had to announce its termination, but I'll pin them on two major factors: poor management of player retention and general inexperience in the gacha market. Before I get started talking about them, I just want to preface by saying that I am not a game designer, and this next portion is based on my own speculation and theories. Recently, I read some articles talking about user retention in online businesses. The same logic applies to gaming too. There's typically 3 industry benchmarks for this: D1, D7, and D30 retention. These effectively just translate to Day 1, Day 7, and Day 30. It basically measures the percentage of players or users after playing the game for 1 day, a week, or 30 days. These metrics are vitally important since, according to this article by Harvard Business Review, increasing customer retention rates by even 5% can increase profits by 25% to 95%. What I'm trying to get at here is that Tribe 9, at least at launch, did not do very well in this regard. First off, there was a huge lack of marketing for the game, so they couldn't get as many people on board. If we compare this to a newer gacha game releasing soon like Etheria Restart, they're doing everything they can, from sponsoring online creators, news posts, devlogs, and so on. Then there was that whole debacle at launch, where a lot of the rewards were nerfed compared to the open beta, and the gacha rates were stingy as hell. The game opened to a mixed rating on Steam, and it was clear that a lot of players weren't happy, immediately dropping off player retention on day 1. Of course, I wouldn't pin all of the player decline based on the launch alone, as a lot of the improvements were added later, but it absolutely did some damage. Another point I want to talk about that some people might disagree with is that the game was simply too hard for a gacha game. While the game itself was advertised as a brutal action RPG with elements of gameplay that rewarded skill play and punished mistakes, if you look at the Steam achievements for the Shark boss in Chapter 1, only 20% of players beat it. Hardcore fans rejoice on how there's actually now a difficult gacha game where it's all skill, where the game doesn't hold your hand, and you can't just overlevel or wail to make it easier. So do you know what they did in subsequent updates? The Shark boss was nerfed, and you now have the option to lower the difficulty upon defeat. The reality is that gacha games were always designed with a casual audience in mind. Tribe 9 shot itself in the foot when it was advertised as high difficulty. The drop-off of players at the Shark boss demonstrates that Tribe 9 certainly did explore the angle to see if a hardcore experience has a market, and that didn't exactly pan out too well. You can puff out your chest and boast how the wimpy casual players are leaving because they can't face a good challenge, except when it comes to player retention, you just lost a potentially paying customer. There's absolutely nothing wrong with making difficult games, with Sekiro Shadows Die Twice being one of my favorites. The difference is that you're paying for the whole experience when you buy the game, so whether a player finds the game hard or not is barely relevant, since the game has already got your money. It's just that for a gacha game designed to be played indefinitely, it doesn't mesh too well with what the audience has come to expect. That also doesn't mean that a hardcore gacha audience doesn't exist, it's just that if you try to take an idea that's not quite proven to succeed, you're taking a creative risk, so the audience size to support this model may not be big enough to sustain itself. Looking at long-term player experience, Tribe 9 falls short here as well. given that you can literally just go from beginning to end of the storyline with barely if any grinding at all, where pulls are given out like free candy, where the relic system is ridiculously generous, and how you're not time-gated by any way to progress. There's just not enough content after you finish everything. There's Fractal Vice for late-game fights, and XP for ranked PvP, except that's pretty much it. It doesn't help that the first major update took 2 months to release. The industry standard these days is 40 days or 6 weeks for patch cycles, with many events and minigames to keep players occupied. I'm not expecting a new city every 2 months, but you gotta keep things fresh by making more frequent events. There's just not enough reason for people to stick around for the long term, which also puts a dent in the D30 retention metric. As you play more gacha games, you've likely noticed a lot of trends and similarities in its mechanics, usually made to inconvenience or annoy you in some way. For example, how the endgame challenge stages are just difficult enough to beat as a free-to-play, but can be breezed through by a whale, or how certain levels in events are time-gated so that only one level unlocks per day, or how there's always some kind of RNG involved with rolling relic substat that you can't always seem to get the ones you want, or how the stamina system is gating you from making progress on your count. I'm one to believe that every design choice in a video game is there for a reason. If you take a look at the gachas, even the newer ones that reach some degree of success, they understand how these systems can boost their player retention and revenue of the game. So we'll start with the gacha system itself. To put it simply, Tribe 9 is way too generous for its own good. So much so that there's not even enough reason to wail. The problem in Tribe 9 is that there's no competitive content that encourages you to stay or spend money on, since you can literally just clear all content with the free characters. As sad it is to admit it, maybe being too generous or free-to-play friendly can actually be a detriment to the game. There's plenty of ways to be generous and still have a sustainable budget. We'll take a look at a game I've been playing religiously the past couple months, Punishing Grey Raven. Also being an action brawler RPG, in this game, if you were a free-to-play, you could actually save enough to guarantee every new S-rank character when they come out. This is due to how the content patches are laid out, since every new S rank is separated by either the release of a free or A rank character between patches. Even free-to-plays can save enough to secure one copy of every shiny new SSR. There's multiple ways to make a character stronger, either by pulling dupes to unlock powerful passives, pulling their 6-star signature weapon, or pulling their cub, but that's more optional. Being a free-to-play, if you participated in late-game challenge content regularly, you could still have a good shot at making it on the leaderboards, as well as buying the currency needed to upgrade an S rank to the next limit break level. If you're a spender, there's still ample opportunities to show off the power you wailed for, but also keeping the free-to-plays happy as they're able to get a slice of the pie as well. And I think most PGR players would agree that the game is very generous. The Battle Pass just straight up gives you a bunch of skins for free, not just one, 3 of them. Snowbreak sells those for $20 a pop, and even with the premium battle pass, you have to upgrade it to the 3rd tier to get the skin. Yet again, I think most Snowbreak players would agree that despite this, the game still has high quality skins that are worth the price. I firmly believe that Tribe 9 could have stood a chance if it knew how to retain players and monetize effectively. I think the hardcore angle the game was going for absolutely had the potential to hold a small and dedicated player base. It's just that the abysmal management, followed by the game being a pretty high-budget title, just couldn't staunch the loss of revenue and players. When a game doesn't do too well financially, it sort of runs the risk of entering a death spiral where less people spend money, and so the game does worse over time. If you're a whale, for example, you're likely very well informed on the state of a game. When the revenue and numbers don't look too good, then it's unlikely you'll keep spending, since the future of the game is uncertain and you might as well be throwing money into the void when it eventually shuts down. I think fundamentally, Tribe 9 has so many good ideas that, if not for the poor management, could have been a successful title. The reason I'm making this video now instead of waiting on the date of termination as I did with my other end of service series is that I want people to play this. Tribe 9 is one of the most unique experiences I've come across in gacha gaming, and while FOMO is normally something I never encourage, since this game will be going offline by the end of the year, it truly makes it a limited game that will go away eventually. You don't need to spend a penny on this game. Well, it's not like you can anyways. Play this game right now. What Tribe 9 has to offer, even now, feels amazing for a single-player title, and I can guarantee you it's something you'll enjoy until the end. If anything, I think the case of Tribe 9 has taught us that sometimes, When you groan about grinding for RNG relics for 2 weeks in a row, how losing the 50-50 rate up lost you the chance to get the character you want, how clearing the endgame challenge seems just out of reach for a free-to-play, or how events and rewards are time-limited and force you to come back every day, maybe, just maybe, these systems are in there for a reason. Sometimes, being too generous can actually be detrimental, in that the mobile industry is as cutthroat as ever, and that good intentions don't always lead to good results. When I compare my experience of playing Tribe 9 to the end of service Pulse, all I see is mountains of lost potential. What a damn waste. Enjoy the rest of the 6 months this game has, because I certainly have never seen anything like it. I will restate what I said in the conclusion of my original review, is I don't think it's aged one bit. Great game, probably shouldn't have been a gacha. Goodbye Tribe 9, you always hold a special place in my memory. Thank you for tuning into the review. If you want to catch more highly specific gacha content, you know what to do. Thank you for watching. As always, have fun out there.